Welcome back to the Movie Well Marathon. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Mac.
Yippee! And we are on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Came out, was it June? I just said it. I'm sorry. I don't know. 2018. June 2018, directed by J.A. Bayona. Starring our returning folks, Bryce Dallas Howard, Chris Pratt, technically returning, but also not, Jeff Goldblum, Daniela Pinata, Isabel Sermon, Justice Smith, B.D. Wong again, Toby Jones for fun, James Cromwell, and Rafe Spall as Mills. So yeah, lots of wonderful people. So, real quick. I have so much to say about this movie, so I'm going to try my absolute best to let you kind of lead this one, because I want to know your perspective,
Okay.
because it seems the general consensus on this movie is that it's bad, and I do not understand why. I love this movie, so I really want to have, I don't want to be in my own mental echo chamber, so I want to hear your perspective. I want you to keep me honest.
I am a little confused. I'm rethinking. I guess never rethinking my opinion, but I'm trying to reframe it, knowing that most people think the movie is
It's
bad
got like a 45, 44 on Rotten Tomatoes. People did not like this movie when it came out.
I mean, there are some slightly contrived plot points, especially in the third act.
Sure.
But for the most part, it's really entertaining and engaging.
I love it.
It doesn't go where you necessarily expect it to go. Like, you get that usual third act betrayal in the second one. Like, at the very beginning, it kind of kicks it all off when they're like, the volcano is exploding. We don't have time to wait around to pull this trigger. So, he gets the raptor and then he shoots Owen. And that's a perfect pace. It's just not expected. Maybe that's what throws people. And then the fact that we are in this Lockwood estate for a lot of the rest of it. I will admit it's a little unusual as a format for Jurassic Park films in the sense that it's not get to Dinosaur Island, survive Dinosaur Island, get off Dinosaur Island. That happens, but like a lot faster. And we've kind of been there, done that. So I don't mind that it's faster. But then I do have to kind of adjust my expectations for the rest of the film. And when I do that, I genuinely love the choices they made for most of the film. I have some things I want to discuss because I'm not sure how I feel about them.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the close quarters T-Rex stuff is awesome on the boat. A lot of the stuff on the boat is really cool. The side characters are less developed than perhaps you would want them to be, but they deliver on performance and entertainment value. All the characters are competent in a believable way, except for maybe the fact that the dinosaur vet who's never seen a dinosaur can perfectly perform surgery, and the blood transfusion is a little sketchy. But again, assuming that we can bring dinosaurs to life, we're just gonna go ahead and yada yada some of the science here, right? And it was all very interesting and fun and engaging. I'm emotionally invested the entire film. I don't know why people wouldn't like it, other than the fact that it breaks formula, you know?
So I there are a couple of things I can see as to why people may not like it. I do not know why so many people hated it to the extent that they did. So for me, I think the opening is amazing. And then the process of getting to the island again is pretty standard. Really there's nothing good or bad to say, really. It's pretty cliche and typical. Then we're on the island. Again, pretty standard, pretty typical, whatever. From the first little sight, that glimpse in the tunnel of the baryonyx, to when the boat door closes on the Arcadia, absolutely spectacular. I love every second, with one exception. I love every second of that whole sequence, and I could talk about it for days. And then from the Arcadia to Lockwood, the stuff on the boat, I think it's cool. It's different. It's new. It's fresh. There's a lot of interesting conversations to be had, which we'll get to. And then from docking to, let's say, the death of the Indoraptor, I think that's like 60-40, but it goes back and forth because like there's some stuff in that I really love. There's some stuff in that I know is kind of dumb and a little underbaked, shall we say. Then the ending, I think, in many ways is, again, spectacular. So like it's kind of a roller coaster, but like the lows are never that low for me, but the highs are some of the highest. I think the volcano sequence and the stampede and the gyrosphere and all that, I think that might be the greatest sequence of this entire franchise, maybe just behind the T-Rex breaking out for the first time in Jurassic Park, only because of how well they do that sequence. But like we'll get more into details in a minute. That's kind of my general thoughts. There's so much to this that I really like that I think is not thought about. Like the biggest thing for me, and this is where I'll stop this because we should talk about the opening. There's this really interesting situation where the villain is nature in this because of the volcano, and you're rooting for the bad guys. Like you have to be because they're the ones saving the dinosaurs. That's a very interesting situation that we've never had before. And like you also, other than the guy who's ripping out everyone's teeth, because we have to have this borderline cartoonish villain so that we enjoy him getting eaten. Like all the other traffickers are still like people and they aren't cartoonish villains. Like they all still react very normally. They have camaraderie amongst themselves. They all react in just as much shock and sadness as like Claire does with the Brachiosaurus, which I can't talk about too much right now because I will cry. So I find that there's more nuance to this than I think it gets credit for, and that's where I'll stop for now because I know I've been talking a lot already.
Well, you know what? We should talk about the opening because we'll get to the other stuff as we get to like the rest of the story. I think the movie might actually be a great sort of like quick 5-minute representation of what the entire film is like, this beginning sequence, because we move so quickly from like scene to scene that I'm like having a hard, like not really having a hard time keeping up. I'm just sort of like, and we're here now, and we're here now. We're dealing with the underwater dinosaur now. Now, you know, the T-Rex is in play. Oh, there's another dinosaur lurking around the corner. Like you're having a hard time keeping up, but it's like in the best way possible. Like I usually write down 1 or 2 notes about the opening of the film, and I almost like do that every single time because the opening of a film really sets the tone, and it tells me a lot about what the director is going to be trying to do, right? And I wrote down more for this opening than I did, I think, for the rest of the film, which just like there's so much going on. We get the line about anything in here to be dead by now. Whoever told you that's an idiot or just lying to you because they want you to go in there. We're still on Isla Nublar. We're starting underwater, which is a completely new location to be starting a Jurassic Park film. We're also starting with, technically, dinosaur. It's people, and then there are dinosaurs that come and eat the people. But for a significant portion of the scene, or at least a significant focus of the scene, is humans preying on dinosaurs too. Like it feels more balanced in this opening than it has in any of the other openings, because the other openings are all, look, it's a dinosaur, and then somebody gets eaten, pretty much. And you could probably argue this a little bit, especially with like the first one, in the sense that it's them setting up the park, so that maybe it is kind of a prey situation with the humans and the dinosaur. But this one feels more villainous somehow, where these guys are going in, taking dinosaur bones, and then trying to get out of town. And the sequence with the guy on the ladder, and
really cool.
You think he's free and he's not. You're just guessing the whole time. I think it's fun. It's a lot, but I think it ends up working really well.
I totally agree. I think just it's one of the spookier openings for sure. I love the lightning with the Rex as it comes in, and like how you can see it and then you can't, and then you can't again.
Like drama.
Yes, and then The mosasaur being behind the pod as the lights go out, amazing. I think it's amazing. I really love how, because we're on Nublar again and we're following these dinosaurs, that we now have like officially 3 dinosaur characters, like Blue,
Mm-hmm.
Rexy, and the mosasaur, because there's only one of them. Like it's always going to be the
Mm-hmm.
same lady, and she's
Mosasaur, yeah.
just she's a magnificent inclusion. And she doesn't really do anything for the rest of the movie, so it's kind of cool that we open with her, and it starts to
Fair.
set the tone that she's escaped and she's out and about, and that sets the precedent for like the rest of the movie in a way. If anything,
Yeah,
it
this
foreshadows the
beginning
rest
theme.
of the opening foreshadows
Yeah.
the ending, which is, I think, really
Mm-hmm.
cool. It's not,
Farewell.
yeah, it's not super surprising that the guy in the letter ends up getting eaten. I mean, we know it's coming, even
No.
if you haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
still, it's magnificent. It's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people have said that, yeah, it would probably be dead, but like also not, because the last thing we see the mosasaur do is eat a dinosaur on the edge of the water, which is what it probably did in the past, and probably what it continued to do for the last couple of years, as this is a middle of the island water source and dinosaurs probably near it. So there you
I mean,
go.
it's pretty central to the themes of this franchise that life finds a way.
Kind
So
of,
like,
yeah.
anytime you assume a dinosaur is down and out for the count, you
It's
gotta be like,
not.
no, that is actually a sign to be looking for that dinosaur
Yeah.
because it's gonna show up.
Yeah. So and then we hop right into our volcanic issue that we're dealing with, which is
Mm-hmm.
really, really, really cool in, I think, many ways, to have this be this question of like, do we intervene? Do we help these extinct animals that are here? Like, and having Jeff Goldblum come back, I think, is amazing, because I like this unfortunate. Unfortunately, we don't really explore this enough, but this idea of our previous characters pushing back on the actions of our new characters, because we've got Dr. Malcolm being like, no, let them die, this is a course correction in many ways, and here comes Claire, who's running an
Mm-hmm.
organization trying to save them, which I think some people didn't like, that her character is so different. I think it's fairly believable. She was
Makes
like,
sense.
she was shell shocked into empathy in the last movie, and she
Yeah.
probably feels so guilty that she's now trying to control everything she can by like trying to take care of the dinosaurs. Like, I think it's cool. I like this
Yeah.
Claire.
My exact note is that I love that Claire is now girl bossing for redemption. Like,
Yes.
she's still Claire. She's
Mm-hmm.
still ultra organized,
Mm-hmm.
driven, ambitious. But instead of pushing for, the park, she's now like, I have done this thing where there are now a bunch of animals on this park, and they could very easily, like, people could try to go there, try to take advantage of them. Now they're in danger. Like, I feel responsibility for this, so I'm going to do something about it. I love that. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
great place to take her character. I also love that we get kind of a parallel of her first scene in the last
Yes.
film in this
Uh-huh.
one, but in her new situation when you
With the
can see how
elevator.
like things are. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
good.
I like that. In
That's
the
a
previous one,
good
the elevator is
choice.
going down, but in this one, it's going up. It's
Mm,
subtle, but I
good,
like that. I like
good.
that.
Uh-huh.
Um, and we get introduced to all of our new characters, which I like both of them. I can't remember her name, but I like
Franklin
Franklin and our little
and
paleo
Zira.
veterinary Zira.
I think it's Zira.
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 Ah, like the ape. Oh, it's Zia. There's no R. Zia
Zia.
Rodriguez.
Dang it.
I like Zia.
Zia.
She is a little, just a tad much sometimes. I think that's writing, not acting.
Agreed.
This was smack dab, really, in the era of, or maybe towards the tail end of, we have our white protagonists and our black nerdy
Mm-hmm.
guy and our badass younger lady who's not taking it. Like, they did that in Big
Yeah.
Hero 6, they did that in Kong Skull Island, they did that in this, they did that in multiple movies within like 5 years. So it's a little formulaic, but whatever. I think they're cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like our little Star Trek reference, even though it's a little aggressive. I'm a doctor, not a telemarketer. Right on. Um, my thing that I don't love about this opening sequence before we get to the island is that Claire and Owen aren't together anymore. Because it's just. I don't know. It's just unnecessary because we already had a whole movie that was them
Mm-hmm.
getting back together, quote unquote. They have a history. So to do
Mm-hmm.
it again just feels dumb.
It's a little repetitive. I think it does make a little bit of sense in the sense that, like, I don't know. Okay, I love Claire and Owen together. This is kind of jumping the gun a little bit because I think they get some great moments later in the film more than
Mm-hmm.
anything. But so, like, start this by saying I love them together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great pairing of characters that's kind of untraditional in the sense that they're both incredibly fleshed out characters, like well-rounded. They have their own thing and their own trajectories, and yet when they're together, they complement each other
Yeah.
so well. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, so I love them. But I also can see how their relationship maybe wouldn't be the most stable, especially since neither of them really have like marriage and family goals. They don't have any intrinsic reason to maybe push through as many struggles as like more, I don't know, couples that are more focused on the family situation. Like they're both very independent people, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I could see that leading to a number of breakups and then coming back together.
I guess, and I don't disagree. It's just to see that they can still interact. There's no actual vitriol. There's no bad blood. There wasn't like a dramatic
Mm-hmm.
breakup. There wasn't like infidelity. There wasn't
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. It's so casual that they can easily just like work together still. Makes it feel completely unnecessary. You could have had them easily just be a couple and just, you know, still be
That's
like,
fair.
but like maybe in some ways they're a long distance couple. It hurts nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't benefit the movie at all to have them split because we go through the same story. That's honestly my least favorite thing about the movie. The only thing I truly don't like is that whole dynamic because it's not necessary.
Mm-hmm. I don't feel like they really play that out for very long because it's
That's
pretty
another
clear
that's another
that
reason why
once
it's
they're in
unnecessary.
danger, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think if we were gonna go this route, I would have played it a little bit less like they were in a formal, like established relationship, and more like they didn't really know what to do with themselves post Jurassic World incident, so they just kind of like went different directions in life, and they were never really officially a thing, and then they officially become a thing
We already
in this
had
movie.
we've already had 3 and now 4 if you count Jurassic World movies of hard to describe, weird, unstable relationships. I don't think it would have
Okay,
been a
yeah.
bad thing at all to just have these two characters who were uncompatible to find out that, you know, maybe they were a little more compatible than we thought, and now they're finding ways to make it work because Claire has done nothing but change in many ways, and
True.
in many ways changing more and more towards the kind of person that would work with Owen. And
Hmm.
it's just, I don't know. I don't want to harp on that too much. I just think it was dumb. But we get Owen
Sure.
back, so we
I
need
mean,
him
he's
for
on
the
the hook the moment she says his name. Like, did you
right.
catch that?
Yeah,
Like the song he's singing
I know. I
is
caught
"I
that too.
Still Love
Yeah,
You."
no, I got
So
that too.
like,
Also,
it's.
I
Did
gotta do
they
this.
really break up, or did they just
Yeah,
have an argument they were too stubborn to apologize
yeah.
for? Like, it's.
And I hate to again 2 weeks in a row be hardcore standing for Chris Pratt because I'm not. I'm not standing for Chris Pratt. But my
Mhm.
God, a man in a flannel building a house. Oof. Mm,
It's
mm.
yeah, it's a good scene.
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot about Owen as a character that's incredibly attractive.
yeah.
I actually have reached a point, and I feel weird saying this because I'm not a Chris Pratt hater. I think he's overused. Is kind of my go-to. Like
Mm,
his his type of casting
mm-hmm.
can be so perfect for a character, or it can kind of overwhelm the character. And in all honesty, I think he does a pretty good job with Owen. I don't think he necessarily drowns the character Owen, but I think there are moments where just because it is Chris Pratt, Owen feels like he takes a back seat to whatever Chris Pratt is
Yeah,
doing in
it
the
does feel
movie.
like that
And
sometimes.
again, I don't think it's Chris Pratt's fault necessarily because I think the costume and the makeup and the hair make him look so much like him because the
Yeah.
movie is writing on his name a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time. So look, again, very conflicted here because I think at the end of the day, were I in charge, I would not have wanted to cast
Yeah.
him for the role of Owen.
Mm-hmm.
And yet,
He does
even
well.
though Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Even though it's the fact that he is Owen is the problem, he actually does a really good job playing the character too.
Yeah, because he's like
So
the least cocky
yeah,
of the characters that he plays, technically
yeah.
speaking, because they've written him in a way where he has legitimate credentials for his badassery. You know, like,
Hmm.
and even though in some
And
ways
it's
Star
not
Lord does
that
too, he's
extreme
still
either.
so obnoxiously cocky that he's annoying and he's immature. This
Mm-hmm.
guy, he's just building houses and training animals and riding motorcycles and just being cool. He's just cool.
Owen knows who he is and doesn't have any like insecurities to compensate for. So, oh, can you hear me? Okay. So Owen knows who he is and doesn't have any insecurities that he has to like try and overcompensate for. And a lot of Chris Pratt's characters operate off that principle. So the fact that he's able to change his approach as an actor, he's able to deliver a true version of Owen, like, because again, this relationship with Claire would not work at all if Owen was insecure because Claire
Mm-hmm.
would not have time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Owen knows exactly who he is, and that's where the source of their conflicts often come from because Claire is not always sure who she is. And so like that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, Owen knows he wants to live in the woods and build a house and a camper and a trailer. And Claire's like not sure how she feels about it. And that's the argument. Now it is kind of silly that they broke up over that. And they're not even sure who broke up with who. But I don't know. They again, we're kind of going on about this, or maybe I'm just going on about this,
I
but
mean,
there are
we
really
both are.
interesting pair of characters.
Yeah.
Really interesting pair of characters. Interesting acting choice for Owen, which it actually ends up being pretty okay, but also just kind of like maybe we could have done something different with the hair.
Sure.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, back to the movie. Back to the
Anyway,
movie.
dinosaurs.
We get introduced to Lockwood, which I think is another thing some people didn't like. Was this like, oh, John Hammond actually had like a partner who he
Hmm.
was best friends with,
It
who
feels a little
contributed a
contrived,
little,
if I'm
just a
being
tad,
honest.
a little.
Especially since it's like very British manor in the middle of the West Coast.
Yeah,
That's kind of weird.
I can understand that, but at the same time, that precedent was set up very early in this franchise of, oh,
True.
by the way, there's actually a second island. So, I mean, if we can accept before
Mm-hmm.
there's another island filled with dinosaurs, I can accept that John Hammond had a friend. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I do like the guy. I do feel bad that his plan is not what ends up happening because I'm into it. I'm into the idea.
Mm-hmm.
He's cool dude. I love how they start setting up pretty early on the Maisie twist, which we will talk about when we
Yeah.
get to it because
Yeah.
that needs to be talked
Uh-huh.
about. That was another
Uh-huh.
thing I think a lot of people didn't like, which I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but anyway, we're on. Let's say we're on the island now after a fun joke with Franklin of I once rode a motorcycle through the jungle with raptors.
We're
We're not
not
compatible.
compatible.
That was good. I like Franklin. I like he's the comic relief because I think he's a believable comic relief of just the guy
Hmm.
who's not supposed to be there, knows he's not supposed to be there, and
What's
doesn't want to be there.
crazy is he is sort of like a I don't know if spiritual is the right word, but like he's a reincarnation of Liz from the first movie. Like the
Live, you mean?
Liv, yeah, Liv. Like because
Live. Lex. It's Lex.
Lex. Okay, I was like, it's an L with the funky letter at the end. But Lex, she's out of her depth. She's
Hmm.
a computer nerd, and she's there because of emotional connections with the people around her. Like it's very interesting to see that character kind
Hmm.
of recast in Franklin, and it works really well. I
Hmm.
like Franklin quite a bit, but he like I feel like both Franklin and Zia have sidekick vibes
A little bit.
sometimes
Oh yeah.
where they're pretty flat or one note, but then they're just
Sure.
like played that one card over and over again.
Yeah.
I
I
like the card, but we
yeah.
could get a little bit more creative with the approach.
I do agree. I general I like them just because they are on the island for a purpose, whereas most of our child like
Hmm.
sidekick characters are not. And like
Fair.
he's there because they need a tech guy. Cool, believable. She's there because they might need a paleo vet. Is it weird that she's a paleo vet who's never seen a dinosaur? Yes. Is it impossible for someone her age to be a paleo vet in this day and age? No, not really. Because by the
Hmm.
time she probably had the opportunity to learn about that stuff, there would have been multiple paleo vet. Like, if you think in this world, there isn't the Secrets of the Zoo equivalent with the vet on Jurassic World, you're a nut.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely a thing now. So I get at first it's like, how could she be a paleo vet? Dinosaurs haven't been around for 65 million years. Well, actually, in this world, they have. So
And do we know how long Jurassic World like was open for?
I do not know for sure. Might be able to Google that. I want to say like probably 10 years with like about that.
And then how many years since it shut down?
It's been 3. That's the only other thing about this that's kind of interesting to think about. It doesn't matter at all what happens in the last movie. Jurassic World still would have ended, which is kind of, a little sad. But what you gonna do? It's nature.
I mean, 13 years of public dinosaurs, and it's not like Jurassic. I mean, arguably longer because Jurassic Park, right?
It's in San Diego in 1997. That's when dinosaurs became a public-facing thing.
So there's
research.
Kids who grew up in a world where you actually have access to living dinosaurs if you want to go that route. So of course there'd be universities that eventually branch into sort of like doctors. I mean, that would be a real job at Jurassic World that has been open for 10 years. We need vets for dinosaurs.
Right.
So I don't know.
While we're on this just for a second, to kind of maybe to cap off the Zia stuff, she does 2 things in this movie that could be considered a little bit much. She is the vet for a velociraptor and performs a surgery. Now, all she's doing is removing a bullet. I imagine she did a lot of similar things like in school. So I don't think that's entirely crazy to expect. The other thing was that she wanted to do a blood transfusion with T-Rex blood. Now, when you watch that, that's like, okay, weird, constructed movie drama. That's insane. However, according to IMDb, that's not actually that far-fetched. A
reliable source.
Oh, I know. If necessary, though, of the carnivores on the boat, it would have been the T-Rex, because all the other ones are technically from a completely different era. Like, we don't get that nitpicky about what isn't from the Jurassic period, but Velociraptor and T-Rex are the closest related ones, and they were both from like the Cretaceous period. Carnotaurus, Allosaurus, the Compies even if the Compies were compatible, you need like 100 of them to do a blood transfusion. Like, all the other carnivores are from an earlier time. It would not be compatible with Blue. So that's actually not that far-fetched that they did that. So I'm giving her a full-blown pass.
She was telling them, well, I mean, maybe it's just some nonsense they made up for the script, but when she specified like the number of fingers, I was like, that sounds like it has some sort of scientific basis, because she's looking for genetic similarities essentially when she's going to, and you have to, let me try again. When you study science or genetics in general, especially biology, you realize that there are some weird connected traits. Like, technically the two don't really have anything to do with each other other than the fact that they are often packaged together, right? So I was like, I believe it on some level. It still feels a little contrived because
a tad.
We have to go to the T-Rex to get it. But
it also technically works.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. I mean, my biggest question is, like, as human beings, we can't even all give blood to each other because of blood types.
Oh, yeah. That we're going to have to...
Yeah.
that we yada over, because we're in a world in which dinosaurs have been brought back. So anyways, coming back a little bit, we're on the island, we get to the control room, we keep having little pissing matches between our animal traffickers and our little scientists, whatever. Everyone's a late 2010s movie character. It kind of happens. We find Blue with a beautiful nod to the original trilogy, where she's made a nest just above the car that was thrown into the T-Rex enclosure. Love that. That's great. Then we trank her and we shoot her, and then we reveal everyone's a bad guy. Oh my god, what a twist. Other than Owen comically moving away from the lava, which I don't love because it's just too silly for what's happening. I really wish they would have done. I really wish they would have done something different. I honestly wish he would have had just enough control to grab onto like the horn or the tail of one of the because they actually had a dinosaur walk over him, or even go further and have the dinosaur actually step on him like his arm, and the pain of his arm breaking
Mm.
is what gets him
Mhm.
going. Like something, because what's happening in this sequence is, I will continue to say, spectacular. This thing, this
Mhm.
location that we've known in our movie mind is being destroyed. Not by a villain, not by a Death Star, not by even capitalism, but by a believable nature thing that was referenced in the book. Like, the island is a volcanic island. It's cool that they brought it in.
Most specifics are, yeah.
Yeah. So to have all this going on in this really cool sequence that's going to end so tragically, to have this weird little silly moment, I don't love that. Franklin's silly moments are fine because his silly moments are his
Mhm.
reactions to this, to what's going
He's
on around him.
panicking.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, but then, with the baryonic sequence, I love it. I love that shit. New dinosaur getting in there, having a
Mhm.
moment, looking terrifying, looking awesome. The sound, the visuals, the lava wall, all of it. I love all that shit. That's amazing. Ooh, it's spooky. I love it. Apparently, the way they did that was pouring liquid kitty litter. So the lava is VFX, but for the room that
Mhm.
they're in to have the light be the way it is, it's kitty litter that they lit on fire, which is really really fun.
What?
Yeah, so they had to have something that was dripping, and yeah, that's cool. Um, when Claire and Franklin then get out, and he's just fully fear, and she says "Holy shit!" Amazing, amazing.
Mhm.
And then the stampede, amazing. They're
Mhm.
also, that's a
The
note,
stampede is amazing.
amazing. It's absolutely, there are more dinosaurs in this Jurassic Park movie than any others, and I think part of that is due to the stampede sequence. It's also,
Mhm.
I do not think anyone appreciated this. In the volcano doing what volcanoes do and blowing debris into the air, we got to experience the asteroid in a Jurassic Park movie. There were meteors, quote unquote, falling out of the sky and killing dinosaurs and leaving craters. We got to experience what would have, like, a version of what would have happened 65 million years ago. That is
That's
incredible.
creative. Yeah,
It's
that's
brilliant. It's absolutely. You could have just done the explosion, and you could have just had, some smoke and some lava, and everyone's scared. But no, we have this incredible stampede, and the shock waves, and the smoke, and meteors falling out of the sky. I know they're not meteors, but like
yeah.
visually, the essence
I mean,
is the
it's ash and
same.
debris on fire hurtling
Yes.
out of the sky. Yeah,
Oh,
it
so
looks.
good.
Yeah.
So good. And then we have kind of a repeat of the Gallimimus sequence, and with everyone behind the log and the log being destroyed. And then, oh my god, a Carnotaurus in a Jurassic Park movie for the first time. It's brief, but it's cool. And it's spooky. And
Mhm.
I'm 98% sure that's Toro. In Camp Cretaceous, there's a repeating Carnotaurus that they deal with that they name Toro. I love to think that that's Toro. And then,
Toro's a good name for
well,
that.
of course. And then, boom, Rexy with the coolest roar of the entire fucking franchise with this massive
Reverb
explosion.
elephant.
Oh, it's so good. They put that in the trailer, and they shouldn't have, because
I shouldn't have.
that moment of Rexy coming out of nowhere and taking out the Carnotaurus, amazing. I also don't know for sure if that particular Carnotaurus made it or not, because as Rexy walks away, her entire weight is put on its throat. Cause like she's got him pinned, and then she walks away, and at one point the entire weight of a Tyrannosaurus Rex is on that one Carnotaurus's throat. So I don't know if he made it or not. But anyway,
A good sleep.
yeah. Then the stampede continues, and we get to the cliff, and there's all these dinosaurs that have nowhere to go. Also, because of the quote unquote meteors, it gives another reason as to why the pterosaurs would be kind of flying low, because they can't get above
Mhm.
it right away. So we get more of the chaos, and it's just magnificent. And I know
It looks really good,
it does,
I
and the
think.
music is cool, the drama
Yeah.
is real, the emotions are raw, because like no one wants the dinosaurs to die, but
I
they
think
are.
it's important to note, and like, sure, this has the benefit of being a very successful and established franchise and being in a good studio or a well-funded studio. But I feel like there are a lot of dinosaurs in this film, a lot of them. And from what I could tell, none of them were practical, or at least
No, there were some. There were some.
there were a few. Okay,
I can point out the specifics when we get to it, but continue with your point
yeah.
because it's still not a lot.
Point is, they had to create a ton of moving CGI dinosaurs, and they do a lot with the lighting that does make it easier on them technically. Like there's a lot of grayer, darker, shadowed scenes in this film than maybe in other Jurassic Park films. But I never saw a scene where they just kind of drop the ball. And usually, when you have a film that is as filled with special effects as these are, even big budget Marvel films, there's usually a scene or two where like they just couldn't get all the finishing touches in on time, and so they did the best they could and called it a day. I didn't see like any of those scenes.
I don't. Yeah,
in this
I agree.
film.
I think the CG for the most part is really top tier. I really do.
Yeah,
Off the top
it's
of my
amazing.
head, we have an animatronic for Blue when she's injured. That's all
Okay,
practical. The
that's
Stegosaurus
cool.
that our bad guy rips the tooth out of, that was practical. We built a new Rex while we were getting the blood. I am assuming there's one probably with the Indoraptor sometimes. Um, I think there's supposed to be 5. I don't remember off the top. I don't know if we did one for the Stygimoloch, which is the Pachycephalosaurus towards the end. If we have one for like a Triceratops or
There was a Triceratops baby though, kind of
right,
real in that one
maybe.
cage scene.
I don't know for sure
Yeah.
which what the other practical one is. I just know there's more in this than there was in the last one, which is nice. You know, we got more of that. Um but so yeah,
I mean, it's all pretty seamless. The fact that I can't
yeah.
really tell is a credit to them, actually.
I totally agree. But yeah, so now we're in the water, right? And we're kind of dealing with this gyrosphere, and we're getting out of it. And there's some people were pointing out some nitpicks with how that was working. I'm really not that worried about it. I think the sequence is fun. We get out, we're on the beach, and the scene of the baryonyx being carried through the air, followed by the T-Rex. I'm like, oh, it's so incredible. Because then we get to this, it's really, I think, put in perspective, and I don't know why more people didn't think about this. The bad guys are winning. They're absolutely winning. But, like, do you want them to lose? Like, Rexy is safe. More dinosaurs are being saved. The chaos of this sequence, of all the dinosaurs being put on the boat. This one boat saving all these dinosaurs called the Arcadia. I put a little emphasis on the C there. But like to maintain this conversation throughout this whole franchise of playing God and whether or not this is a good thing, and you know, I love that.
Well,
I
and
love that.
this
The
movie,
Arcadia is awesome, and what it did is incredible. And then we get on the boat, and then after we get on the boat, I cry like an infant every single time I watch this movie. I saw this movie in
it's
theaters
really
with my mother
emotional.
and didn't know that was going to happen. And you've never seen a grown man try not to cry so hard and fail as I did in that moment. And look, there are, honestly, for me, there are more movies that make me cry than not if I get really into it. But like, there's not many movies in which I legitimately, viscerally don't have a choice. Like it does not matter. I just, it's also, it's not like the tears well up. They pour
It just
every time because, let me elaborate and then I'll stop talking. Brachiosaurus is my favorite dinosaur. And for me, watching the dinosaur almost have enough cognitive knowledge to know that the boat, not know that like they're there to help, quote, but like to know that it had to get off, it had to go. But also in my mind, it didn't matter if there was time. It's too big. There's no way they can save. Technically, though, if you look at the Arcadia's manifest, it says there's Brachiosauruses on it. I don't know how that's
there's one
fucking
in the
possible.
final scene, I think.
Because we also don't see one later in
I
Lockwood's
think it's something else then.
estate. So if they have Brachiosauruses, I'm assuming they're juveniles. Like, I don't think it's possible to put an adult Brachiosaurus on that boat. And then the added kicker, which some people were mad about this, but I honestly love it. That's the same Brachiosaurus from the first movie. The first dinosaur we see on the island is the last
I knew it
dinosaur we
was
see on the island.
symbolically, but I didn't realize it
It's
was literally the same
and
one.
it's heartbreaking because it stands up on its hind legs the same way it did when Alan and Ellie see it, but it's different because it's standing up out of the lava. It's
It's
heartbreaking,
crying.
but it's so magnificently sad because it's nature. It's completely out of our
Mhm.
characters' hands. It's out of our
Mhm.
hands. It's not just shock and awe for shock and awe's sake. It's that just this thing that cannot be controlled. And I think it's very poetic. I honestly wish there was some sort of movie in between this and the last one so that this was the ending. Not just because I have issues with the
Mhm.
next one, but because that feels like a beautiful way to end this saga with that Brachiosaurus. I think it's kind of cool that that does happen halfway through the movie and that that
Mhm.
ends this story, and from then
Mhm.
on we enter this new
We get
era
a new
of
one.
like this new
Mhm.
world in many ways. It's tragic, but it's beautiful. And Claire's reaction
It
to it, Owen's reaction, and all the other trafficking pirates too, being just as helpless and in total awe and shock as it happened. No one's joking. No one's like, I wish we could have got that one. That would have paid a pretty. Everyone is silent, and then the doors close, and the doors have closed on that chapter. I fucking love that scene. It breaks my heart, but I love it. It's that pain. It's that good pain. And I'm sorry, I talked more than I said I was going to do. I want to hear your thoughts on it.
it's I mean, it's all the things you said, plus to me, that Brachiosaurus, especially since it's the first one. I always connect it to the first one because the Brachiosaurus, since that first one, has been symbolic of the wonder that comes
Mm-hmm.
from this idea. This giant monster that is so peaceful and so beyond our understanding or beyond our day-to-day lives, it represents symbolically the beauty and wonder of the natural form of dinosaurs. And just like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously these guys are all clones, and you can talk about the nitpicks that, maybe it doesn't actually look that way, maybe this isn't totally nature at play,
Right.
but symbolically, again, metaphorically, we're talking the Brachiosaurus represents the peace and the
Mm-hmm.
power and the
Oh
wonder.
yes.
And it's all those things that John Hammond wanted originally to give to
Mm-hmm.
people with the park.
Yes.
It's about the love of dinosaurs, and then to use it as your tragic figure
Mm.
in the loss of these dinosaurs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I cognitively, I kind of agree with Malcolm in the sense that
I
it is
know.
not smart or safe to move the dinosaurs.
Right.
The fact that they happen to be isolated on an island that's going to self-destruct is kind of a natural correction. I, as a government official, or maybe if I had my own funds, I would invest in trying to save the
Right. Yeah. If
dinosaurs.
I were
But
Lockwood, I'd be
if I
doing
were,
what Lockwood did.
yeah, but if I were working with taxpayer dollars, I
Right.
wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think, interesting that the movie then kind of, it doesn't necessarily push back on that idea. It doesn't necessarily say that the government was obligated to do something or that
Right.
people
Right.
in the world are obligated to do something, but it lets you feel the tragedy of the
Mm.
loss with this, while also, like you were saying, bringing us into the next phase of the story, because the next phase of the story takes the arguments of the original films and turns them more toward what I think the original book was kind of about, which is about genetic power, which
Mm-hmm.
is the phrase they
Yes.
keep throwing
Yes.
around in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And it very quickly it goes from being, this is kind of a complicated issue because dinosaurs are amazing and wonderful, and look what science can do. It can bring back dinosaurs. But then also it brings back dinosaurs, and that's kind of dangerous. But now
Mm-hmm.
it's shifted from that to the only dinosaurs that are left in the world are the ones that were going to be sold on the black market so that people
Mm-hmm.
could make weapons out of them.
Yeah.
And they are now just new versions of power and destruction when left solely in the hands of essentially bad humans. So science at this point becomes like evil. Nature, not so much, but science becomes a dark force in the franchise moving forward. And we have, I mean, Dr. Wu at one point he's just straight up Frankenstein.
Uh-huh.
He's Dr. Frankenstein. And so much to the point where, like, I think this is an accident. I don't think this is an intentional allusion to the story of Frankenstein's creature. But when he's talking about how important it is for them to socialize their
Yeah.
new version,
Mm-hmm.
then he's talking about the crux of the problem that is Frankenstein's
Mm-hmm.
creature monster, which is
The
isolation
nurturing
is dangerous
aspect.
thing. Yeah, the nurturing aspect is so super important to make sure that you don't create a weapon that's just unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally the same conversation. It's just been, and it's the same conversation that we started with Jurassic Park, but it's now taken away from those who would use it for good, and it's almost exclusively put in the hands of those who would use this power for evil. And that makes the rest of the franchise, not that there's that much left, but that makes the rest of the story very, very different, I
Mm-hmm.
think, which may
Yeah.
be what people didn't like so much.
I fuck them. I agree, and I think there's a no. I gotta hold off on that. I'm sorry. I have more to say on that, but it kind of leans more into the next movie. I do agree, and I think there's some really interesting, cool things that they could have continued to explore, but they don't. But anyway, yes. So we get to the mainland after some cool moments on the boat. We save Blue, when she cries. That's awful. I don't know if velociraptors would have tear ducts. I'm not gonna think about it too much, honestly. Throughout this movie as
They
well,
can purr too, apparently. That's
yeah,
unfair.
yeah. Throughout this movie as
Purring
well, though,
dinosaurs.
like Owen watching old videos and Maisie finding those videos about training
Mm-hmm.
Blue and Blue being little. I love all that, honestly. I love learning more and more about um like the Raptors and her background and all. I like again another movie in which the Velociraptor isn't an antagonist. I'm honestly
Mm-hmm.
glad to be past that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Getting to back to Lockwood Manor, where Mills is revealed, of course, to be a pissant, which we kind of knew already. Um, and Wu is freaking out because they need the Velociraptor. And Maisie's learning all this stuff, and then what he kills Lockwood. That's sad. What else we got? This auction sequence, crazy. Jesus Christ, this is crazy. This man is crazy, but believable. I think in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I like the auction sequence. I honestly wish it went on a little longer. I think that the chasing throughout the house with the Indoraptor could be cut just a tad and have more of this fun little auctioneer guy elaborating on what each dinosaur could have been used for. And,
Sure.
like calling the Ankylosaurus a living tank. Ooh, cool. And then bringing out this a different enclosure with a bunch of compies and be like, you let these guys go hungry for a couple of days and you'll never need another interrogator ever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
play it up a little bit. Give me some more ideas. Like, what would you do with this, with that? Like, and then I can appreciate and understand because the auction did what Jurassic Park didn't do and was clearly saving the T-Rex for the very end. But I would have loved to know what some idiot thought that was worth. Because
Mm-hmm.
easily 100 million, right? 50 million? 80 million just for a T-Rex? I mean, right? I
It's
mean,
like having your own pet tiger, but way cooler.
it's like having every tiger left on Earth because it's the only T-Rex on Earth. Anyway,
True.
the Indoraptor here is now introduced, and we've had hints
Mm-hmm.
of it, throughout the movie. Um, I'm kind of torn on the Indoraptor. I like in some ways that we have the extended sequence because we don't get to deal with it the whole movie like the Indominus Rex. It's kind of
Yeah.
introduced, played with, and then killed.
Mm-hmm.
How do we feel about the Indoraptor?
I think it's a fantastic monster movie or movie monster.
Mm.
Uh, in the sense that, do I think it's great as a dinosaur? Complicated question because again, the crux of the films here are what we do in science, how we play God, what just because we can, should we, to
Mm-hmm.
boil it down to a high school, level question. The Endoraptor is a perfect example of how genetic manipulation is not, for lack of a better way to put it, respectful of nature.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a dinosaur in the sense that this is not a natural creature that is dangerous because it likes to eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
This is a living weapon that is designed to kill and destroy and has no real physical or valuable presence in the an ecosystem. It only exists to do harm. And that is like I think it's reflected in its actions and its design. It looks like a dinosaur on the surface, but when you pay attention to it, it's way too cosmetic or unique to be like a true, collaboration or edited version of any one dinosaur. It's the way that it plays with what's his name? The hunter character.
Yeah, the tooth guy.
Ken. Yeah, the tooth guy, Ken Wheatley. It's sadistic. Like, and do we believe that a dinosaur, no matter how engineered, would be sadistic? I don't really know.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I clearly was cutting you off. I'm sorry, continue.
Basically, the point is, I don't think it satisfies the definition of dinosaur. Which means that it's a good movie monster. Yeah. It's fantastic for the end sequence. It proves the point that the film is trying to make about genetic power. But when it comes to, do I feel like the design is inherently, I don't know, it inspires a completely different set of thoughts and feelings for me than any of the other designs do. So I like it, but I feel like you inherently have to talk about it as if it's a different thing than the rest of the dinosaur choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that. And I like that conversation. I think it's fun and it's spooky. I wish we kind of had more of, we got to see Blue and it fight a little more, because it's more of something that happens in the background. I like that we've got a fully weaponized movie monster, like you said. I did wonder for a brief while, though, because the auctioneer guy says it's the perfect blend of the two most dangerous predators that have ever lived. And that's implying it's the Rex and the raptor. But I thought, what if they finally did a human and a raptor? Because of its lanky limbs and the way it plays with the guy, it almost looks like it grins. And conceptually, and like deleted concepts and stuff, Jurassic Park, the franchise, has been playing with the idea of human dinosaur hybrids for decades and just never pulled the trigger. So I thought they had finally done it, because the two most deadly predators that have ever existed are humans and raptors, right? Right. We never find out, because we don't explore this again in the next one. It's clearly not meant to be that, but I thought the seed had been planted that it could have been that.
It appears very human to me, and the way that it approaches that scene in particular. And there are other moments, I think, as well, but the rest of them could be kind of explained as intelligent animal behavior.
Sure,
I
suppose.
Little smirk that he has when the guy's trying to pull his tooth out. And that's either just pure cinematography fun, or they are trying to tell us something about the design of the creature.
The use of its hands is so unique. Like, no other dinosaur, even the raptors, does anything like that. But whatever. We're getting close to our time, and there's two other things we have to talk about before we end. Maisie being a clone, and the dinosaurs being released. So quickly, my thoughts on the clone thing. I don't have a problem with that at all. If you go into this world and you know that they've cloned dinosaurs from DNA they got from rocks that had bugs in it that are millions upon millions upon millions of years old, and then you're okay that they cloned a dead mega whale lizard thing that they found in the Arctic that wouldn't be there, but then you're upset that they have the ability to clone a person, fuck off. Is it necessary for the movie? No. But since we're, again, getting more and more into how this genetic power can be abused and what it can do, I would almost argue it's well overdue.
Yeah.
I like it, and I really hope they don't undermine it in the next movie.
So, I'm a little conflicted on this, because I do think that Maisie being a clone is actually really good for the story and the world building and the development for exactly all the reasons that you just said. This is a world in which the rich people have access to genetic power. If someone, some old rich guy loses his daughter and he's partnered up with John Hammond before, the guy who brought back dinosaurs, it makes sense to me that he would be able to clone his daughter and have a granddaughter. And then the way that they tell the story is very grounded too. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that she's like a lab rat. She
No.
just is a product of
Yeah.
science when
Just a clone.
incredibly, funded and
Right.
resourced. So she's just living as a
Mm-hmm.
person. And then I think that the end where she's the one that releases them and she
Yes.
says, I had to, they're alive like
There were
me.
some people who
Like,
didn't get that.
ooh, that is
Amazing.
that's amazing end to this film
Mm-hmm.
because the whole time, I mean, even from the first film, when we're talking about dinosaurs, they've been talked about, are they live wild animals or are they intellectual property?
Mm-hmm.
There's this kind of debate that goes on. And it's always been very clear that they're not fully intellectual property, but there has always been some sort of foothold or argument on the fact that like they wouldn't be here if we hadn't concocted them and made them in a lab. Like they are more of a product than any other living thing on the planet. And so there's kind of this gray area to have that debate. But when Maisie opens the door and says, I had to because they're alive like me, that kind of puts a nail in the coffin for that argument in the sense that anything that is a clone, we have to understand is the thing that has
Mm-hmm.
been cloned. Like
Right.
it's a clone is different in the way that it is created, but ultimately is fundamentally kind of the same thing, regardless of how it was created. And I think the only way we would have really fully recognized that is if a human person or a human clone
Mm-hmm.
made that argument, especially when it's a sweet little girl opening doors for
Right.
dinosaurs that she loves. It's a really great moment,
Yeah.
honestly. One of the best moments in the final bit of the
I
film.
think the conversation is also really fun because before she does it, it's Claire, and then you get to ask, would you
Mhm.
do it? Could you
Mhm.
do it? Could you
I
unleash
don't know if I could.
dinosaurs upon the world? I don't know if I could. I would be forever broken up either way. Like it's I don't know what I would do.
Especially the carnivores. I
Mm-hmm.
think if there was a way to filter out some of them, I think I would have let some of them go, but I wouldn't have been brave
I
enough to
don't.
even
Yeah.
open the cages for the carnivores.
I know. I don't know. That's the other thing. Claire opens up all of them right away. You think maybe like,
Yeah.
well, okay, so the Parasaurolophuses, yes, and the Triceratops, sure, sure. The Gallimimus, absolutely. That's basically just an ostrich with a tail. That's fine. Allosaurus, uh, well, I don't know about that one. The Compies, probably not. I don't know
Yeah,
about that.
exactly. The
And then
compies would be like terrible raccoons, man.
right.
Except they would go
Oh,
after children.
right.
Like that'd
And
be
then,
bad.
but if someone like tapped me on the shoulder and been like, well, actually, the Mosasaur is already out there. It's like, oh, well, fuck it. Everyone can go out. That's fine. If I could
Yeah.
actually if I could filter them all out, my thought process is that they'd probably kill most of the carnivores later on. But if there were Dilophosaurus in there, those would be the fuckers I wouldn't let out. If assuming there were raptors too, like you're not letting out raptors.
Mhm.
But anyway, the idea that they're out now, I find incredibly exciting, and I'm gonna bitch so hard next week because of the undermining that they do to this absolutely phenomenal ending of this movie. Um,
Mhm.
we don't get to keep track of them all because Mills is hiding under the car as they all escape. But again, because the Arcadia Manifest, we kind of know what was there. We know what to keep track of. We know what has been unleashed on the world, or so we think. Anyway, the ending is great, and then Mills getting eaten is amazing. And there's actually, it's not
Mhm.
just when he gets up. Yeah, we see the Carno in the back, and like, oh no, spooky. But the compies all look up at the Rex and then jump away before the Rex comes into frame. They
I think I noticed that.
they fully
I think I
foreshadow
did.
that that's about to happen. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And then technically, this is the only Jurassic Park movie to have a post-credit scene. It's really lame. It's just the pterodactyls in
Mhm.
Vegas. And then
Mhm.
I want to end real quick. My last point, as a tragic, sad little moment. when Blue is running and is looking over that urban area, the sound she's making is the Velociraptor call for other raptors. And there's no one to respond.
Oh,
She's
because
alone.
she's so social
She's
and she's
alone.
got
She's by
nobody.
herself. And for me, 'tis a whale. This is absolutely a whale. I don't know why so many people hate this. I really, really don't. I can see the nitpicks.
I mean,
There are seams that we could have talked
there
more
are some
about.
things we could talk about.
But like,
Yeah, like
to hate
as much
it,
as I love the Maisie as a clone bit, I feel like it comes on weird in the third act. Like the way that they present it is very like, oh, and by the way, you're a clone. Moving on because we got to deal with dinosaurs.
I guess, but like of all the movies that we have, I think it's the third best. I really do. I would put it above Jurassic Park 2 and Jurassic Park 3 easily.
I could do that too. I think Jurassic Park 2 gives it more run for its money, but
That's
I don't know. I
because
think this one.
Jurassic Park 2 is carried by Ian Malcolm and some cool stuff with the Rexes. But that's,
Mm-hmm,
at the end of the day, that's it. As we talked about, it doesn't handle all the
mm-hmm.
dinosaurs very well. It doesn't handle the pacing. This movie, for all of its potential flaws, handles the new dinos perfectly. We get our moment with our returning
The dinosaur
characters.
film, it's surprisingly excellent.
Yeah. We get our returning characters, and then we get a new moment with Baryonyx. We get a new moment with the Stiggy Mullock, which, we've never done anything with before. We get some returning faces just in the background. Like, it's really cool. It feels fully fleshed out. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
back in 2018. I am so excited for the next movie.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah. Final thoughts on you, and I need to stop talking.
I think it's a great film. For me, it's definitely a whale. I can see how this film might throw some people's expectations and therefore maybe not have a great audience reception. But I think the fact that people think of the film as a bad film is a mistake. I think if you go in with less expectations and you just kind of pay attention and watch the film for what it is,
Give it a chance.
you will realize it's fantastic. It's really quite good. It's complex. It's complicated and complex, and it does a lot in a short amount of time, but nothing that it does is disconnected from the other parts. It's
Right.
all a very natural, like, progression.
It's on theme.
It's on theme. It kind of moves us into a new phase of the franchise, which I think is necessary because as much as I love Jurassic World, it is essentially just a copy of Jurassic Park.
Uh-huh.
Bigger and better this time, but it's essentially the same story. So I really like it. I think it's a fantastic addition to the franchise, and I think it really could have opened amazing doors for where this story could go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll talk about that next week. I have no shortage of things to say. I have only seen Dominion once. I watched it. I couldn't go back. So this will be the second time ever. So this will be interesting.
I think the last time I watched it was also in theaters. I just didn't have an interest in going back and watching it again. I'm not a huge movie rewatcher, but
yeah, I am. So, especially these movies. Anyway, that's us. We're done for now. Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.
Right. Bye.
I say guys like there's multiple guys.